Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is ARFAN HAKIMI bin SUHAIMI. So our group will present case study about a project for two-story terrace house, which is until now the project is still ongoing. So we go to the background of our case study. Firstly, we choose this project which is located at Bandar Sri Sendayan Negeri Sembilan, which is developed two-story terrace house by a developer named Matrix Concepts. Totally, the project I can say like a in-house project because the main contractor for this project is Matrix SLCon, and the manufacturer or the panel supplier for this project is Matrix IBS, which is owned by Matrix Concepts. So actually at Tiara Sendayan, they develop total about 9%, but we only choose percent 6 for our case study. So for percent 6, they develop 278 units that use precast concrete system, and I can say that this project is the first ever Matrix Concepts project that use IBS system. So maybe it is starting for them to implement this new technology that maybe other construction players or other companies had used before. So we move to the concept and framework of IBS for this project.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NURFATINHA BINTI NAWI. I will present about the concept and framework IBS for the proposed IBS at Tiara Sendayan Precinct 6 project. There are proposed precast concrete system as a IBS system that's used to be implied to a design two-story terrace house. The precast concrete system that's only use IBS components from the Matrix IBS manufacturer. First, for the precast column and beam, precast column in the construction method use a precast concrete system, and its building material is reinforced concrete. Multi-story columns are cast with corbels or other connection at intermediate levels to accommodate the beams. Okay, second, for the precast wall, a non-load bearing wall does not support the structural weight for the building. The walls can be removed without anchoring the safety of the building because non-load bearing wall panel is not responsible for the gravitational support for the building. Precast wall length and thickness are frequently modified on the assembly plans to meet appliance and building requirements. Okay, for the last is precast slab. Solid flat slabs are two-way reinforced concrete slabs that typically do not have beams and rings as well as loops transferred directly to the supporting concrete columns. A hollow core slab is a void slab. It is a form of pre-stressed concrete precast sheets that are commonly used in the construction floors. A double T slab is two beams placed symmetrically to interact with the slab formed in one section.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURFATIN binti SUZI. We will continue with the application of IBS system. I will present about the feeder of IBS components and the suitability of proper system in building. The feeder of IBS components such as beam, columns, wall and slab that are manufactured from IBS matrix use the concrete grade G40. Incorporation to in situ concrete precast concrete production delivers higher volumetric precision and complete concrete surface. It also improves essential aspect of higher quality, which is a good way to reduce defect for an easy example of damage on the surface. So the complex design will be tough to build on site using standard methods. The precast concrete makes better erection at site as well as compared to cast in place construction. Precast concrete component arrive at the project site ready to install and saving weeks. The suitability of proper system in building. First is precast concrete column. The precast concrete column, the quality can be controlled during the intentional manufacturing process, maintaining consistency in connection and bearing of loads from other structural components. The precast concrete column that this building use is designed sustainably, which has the component of cobble to support the loads above. Second is precast reinforced concrete beam. The precast concrete beam are configuration and flexible. They have broad capabilities to custom produce concrete plank to required specification at site and have high potential in producing highly consistent connection and construction. These beams are designed according to the shape of the column, and they generally are designed as multiple components ranging from a single story and second story. Next, the precast concrete wall panels. The precast concrete wall panels are very suitable at the isolated void, significantly reduce the weight of the panels while maintaining the strength. This results in an efficient lightweight unit that is suitable for resisting the bending moment from loads from the roof and wind in the building. The panels can be produced with almost any surface finish on both sides, the exterior and interior. Precast concrete walls are designed as blind dividers or facade that do not carry a load to the building itself. Anyhow, the precast wall must oppose parallel loads conferred on it due to save weight, quake and wind. And the last precast is precast hollow core concrete slab. The precast concrete hollow core slab is suitable for this building as the tubular voids significantly reduce the weight of the slab while maintaining the strength as compared to a solid concrete floor slab of the same size and shape. This results in an efficient lightweight unit that is suitable for resisting the bending moment from loads in multi-story buildings, and this component also inorganic composition enhance fire protection. So the which is a precast concrete element with tubular void extending the full length of the slab. It consists of pre-stressing tendons within the element to provide a predetermined force needed to external cracks and risk loading.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NURFATINHA and I want to present under the fabrication process. The first process is setting up formwork. The formwork used for fabricating precast concrete is made in sturdy steel. It will be high quality formwork where the formwork can retain tight dimensional tolerance over repeated use. Second is installation of hardware and providing panel. The hardware such as reinforcement is placed in both directions and typically placed in two layers. Third is placing mold. Once formwork is ready, concrete is delivered to the formwork using a transit mixer or bucket. Proper vibration and compaction should be carried out in more congestion area. Fourth is controlled pouring. Controlled pouring environment in factory reduce concrete curing time through the use of advanced mix design, including low water to cement ratio. 5 is stripping of formwork and applying detail finishing. A time frame of panel is stripped of formwork in 15 to 20 hours. The next process is precast concrete being transferred to the storage area. The precast concrete is moved for storage area after the curing and the finishing detail has been complete. 7 is conducting quality control activities. Quality control carries out tests and certification ensuring the correct specification. The last process is delivery and transportation. The erection sequence will determine the order of transport with careful planning and minimize transport costs. The components are delivered to site in predetermined sequence to ensure that the hardened concrete is ready instant erection.
Okay, next we go to the connection detail, which is first column and wall panel to ground floor connection. Second, wall to wall panel connection. Third is beam to wall panel connection, And last, beam to slab panel connection. So for column and wall panel to ground floor connection, the connection of the column panel and wall panel to the base is between a self level, which is like a stand for the panel because the concrete is not level. And then the connection for column and wall to the base is between J-bolt that links with hollow rebar inside the concrete and the vertical pipe that exists. So basically every panel has the insert design based on drawing. For example, the first floor wall panel will be installed on the self level that also has the pipe and bolt. So after the panel is placed in the position, the workers will use the water level to adjust the alignment and the verticality, as you can see at the picture, before the workers tie up the bolt with washer and nut. And then only for the column panel starter bar Y20 was added during the foundation process for the connection between the column panel and the base. Next, for wall-to-wall panel connection, like I said before, every panel has the insert as the joint and the connection that using bolt, nut and washer that has been set. But for party wall, the wall-to-wall connection is using type A set installation. For the other wall, like intermediate wall, for example a room or toilet, the wall-to-wall panel connection have various types of set installation, depends on the wall panel as the joint for each of the panel. Next, for the connection between beam and wall panel, beam panel and wall panel is using 4 types of set installation, depends on the panel itself. As you can see, maybe it can be set installation G, set installation H top and H bottom, also set installation I. It all depends on the panel. And lastly, the connection between beam panel to slab panel is only using one set only, which is set installation J, because it specified for beam panel and slab panel only using set installation J. Okay, next we go to installation procedure. So first we go for foundation. The earthwork, as usual, first must do the site clearing, such as cut and fill. Next, for surveying work, they need to set the boundary packs and do the leveling work. And then they need to set the sewerage line, like marking where the manhole, and then settle the back lane and side lane drain before marking the grid line. After that, install the underground pipe and start to excavate the foundation. Excavation for the trench needs to be 9-inch deep, and after excavation the soil needs to be sprayed by anti-termite. And lastly, for the finishing for foundation work, they need to laying the plastic sheet on the soil. Okay, second we look for rebar and formwork installation. So after spraying the anti-termite and laying the plastic sheet, they start the rebar installation work. Next, they install the formwork drop area and hollow for J-bolt installation that connect to the wall panel or column panel for ground floor connection. So after rebar and formwork installation, next step is concreting and do the safe level. So after doing all the inspection on the rebar installation before, they need to do the leveling for concrete. And then after the concrete work done, they need to cast for the ground floor and dismantle all the framework and hollow that installed before. And then they need to check the squareness and set the self leveling for the panel. So after settle for the foundation work, settle for rebar and formwork installation, concreting and self level, panel installation, every panel installation has the same procedure. Like after the panel delivered to the site, a worker will refer to the sequence drawing to confirm that every panel delivered is correct for every unit and follow the arrangement of the panel. At the same time, the worker will check the defect such as crack on the surface of the panel. And then after settle checking for the panel, the crane operator will swing the panel using 20-ton mobile crane into the installation place from the lorry. But before the operator swing the panel, the worker will lock the panel before the crane start to swing the panel for surrounding safety. So after swing the panel, the other workers will be ready at every panel installation place to hold the panel slowly down to the position while adjusting the panel alignment, the levelness and verticality while setting up the bolt nut that used for every panel that installed. Maybe from the adjustment, the workers will detect the insert problem or the others, so that they need to rectify the panel one by one or contact the manufacturer to come to the site to rectify the panel. So every panel has the same procedure. Like first, checking the panel first, and then swing the panel, and last, the other workers will be ready at the installation place to adjust the alignment, the verticality, and from the adjustment they hold slowly, and then when they need to tie up the panel, maybe they detect the insert problem, the bolt cannot be inside the insert. So every panel have the same procedure.
My name is MOHAMAD ZAKWAN bin AZLAN, and I will present about the schedule of modular component. Before that, I will briefly explain about modular coordination. Modular coordination provides a practical and coherent method for coordinating the position and dimensions of elements, components, and spaces in the planning and design of building. It is also to provide guidance to building component sizing, which can reduce the need to further trim and shape the materials to fit together in construction, hence reducing wastage of labor and material. Then, about modular components. It is items that works together to form a single functioning item. A modular component is totally self-contained, but also dependent on other components to work. When multiple modular components are combined, they create a modular system. Since each part is separate, it is often possible to upgrade, change or repair one component while leaving the main system operational. Our case study project is a two-story terrace house that consists of ground floor and first floor. Here will be the list of the precast concrete of wall panel for ground floor and upper floor. For first floor, there is 23 precast concrete of wall panel, and for upper floor, it is 25 precast concrete wall panel. Each panel have a different dimension. Our schedule modular component is also cannot be completed as we don't get the specification of some wall panel that consists of door and window.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohamad Arif HAFIFI bin Mohamad KAMAR, and I will explain about the IBS score calculation for our building. So first, we come up with all the detailed measurement for our building, which consists of 4 elements, which is the first one, construction area, second one, structural system, wall system, and last one is other simplified construction solution. So for the first one, construction area, we get the area for one unit of house, which is 530.6 meter square. For the structural system, we have 2 elements, main structure and also the roof truss. For the main structure, we use precast columns and beams, and for the roof truss, we use prefab steel roof truss. For the wall system, we have 2 internal wall and also the external wall, and we get the length for each wall, which is the internal wall 215 meter and for the external wall 105 meters. And last one, the details about all the other simplified construction solution. Okay, next we move into the calculation part. So for the calculation part, we separate into a 3 part, which is the first one is structural element. So for the structural element, we have the precast columns and beams and also the roof truss, which is prefab steel roof truss. So we get the area for each of them, and then for the IBS factor for the precast columns and beams is 0.5. Then we calculate the coverage, and lastly we calculate the IBS score, which is the IBS factor 0.5 with times with the coverage 0.5 and times with the 50 points. Why 50 points? Because the maximum points for the structural elements is 50 points. So for the precast columns and beams, we get the score 12.5, and for the roof truss, we get the score 25 points. So the total point for the part 1, which is the structural element, is 37.5. Okay, next for the part 2, we will calculate for the wall elements. So there is 2, which is the internal wall and also the external wall. So the method is the same as the part 1. So we get the area for each wall, and the IBS factor is 1, which we refer to the schedule. So we calculate the coverage, and lastly we calculate the IBS score, which is the IBS factor is 1 times with the coverage and times with 20 points. Why 20 points? Because the maximum point for the wall element is 20 points. So for the internal wall, we get 30.4 points, and for the external wall, we get 6.6 points. So the total points for the part 2, which is for the wall element, is 20 points. And for the last part, we will calculate for the other simplified construction solution. So we got the elements. So for the first one is 100% door size, comply to MS 1064. The coverage is 100, so the IBS score is 4. And then for the windows, the coverage also 100%, so the IBS score is 4. The horizontal repetition of structure floor layout, so the coverage is 90%, so the IBS score is 6. For the prefab staircase 50%, the IBS score is 1. For the PBU 100% coverage, the IBS score is 2. And then for the beam level 2, the coverage is level 2. So for the level 2, the IBS score is 6. And the last one is modular grid lines, which is the coverage is 90% and the score is 4. So we total up all the scores for the other simplified construction solution and we get 27 points. Okay, so the last one, we will total up all the IBS score from the part 1, part 2 and also for the part 3. So for the part 1 we get 37.5 points, for the part 2 we get 20 points, and for the part 3 we get 27 points. So we total up and lastly we get the 84.5 points for the IBS score for our building.
So finally for the conclusion, the IBS system is still new to our country and needs a lot of exposure, and there is still a learning phase, especially for certain construction players that looks quite good for a challenge between them. Maybe Europe can be the best examples for us for this IBS implementation. For our recommendation, I can say that for the precast concrete panel itself, maybe it can be improved in terms of the design, sizing and the joints. Like the bigger the size, the lesser the joint, and surely it will reduce the defects such as leaking. From the manufacturer, they must have a good management on producing the panel. They must list the defects on the surface of the panel that will be delivered. Transportation for the panel also is important, that might cause the defect for the panel, because lot of defects may delay the work on site to rectify for a complete installation. As IBS want to speed up the construction duration, so panel delivery must be on time and cannot be delayed. Last but not least, of course, skilled worker needed for this type of construction, as the installation part need to be monitored and trained. So thank you from us.